Yes. 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 Well, there it is. It's beautiful. It's amazing. This is what I've been waiting for. Good morning, degenerates. And no, I haven't been dead. Unfortunately. So as I've said many times before, this is a deep dive video into the Amazon website for New World. We're going to be taking a look at the items today. So, if you got something better to do, if you're too lazy to read the website, well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to read it for you, straight from Amazon's mouth. So I hope you enjoy. And you know what? These videos aren't for everyone. If this is not for you, if you know this information, well, then, feel free to click away. No one's going to be mad about that. But let's get into it. Let's see what we've got. I've been really waiting for this one because the items, the consumables, the food, that's what this is about. So this is about the items in New World, and it was released on June 3rd, 2020. So if we take a look at this picture here, we seem to have all our basic crafting tools. We've got some weapons on the side there. I'm guessing that this is some kind of either storage space that's in the game, or it's a crafting station where we get to craft things. So let's jump into the paragraphs before I start getting a little bit too comfy with these images. So throughout your adventure in Eternum, you will get your hands on a wide variety of items. You will collect consumables such as food, drinks, potions, weapon coatings, and tinctures, as well as armor and weapons. You can also find special crafting resources while slaying creatures or searching through abandoned settlements, temples, and corrupted camps. Let's have a good look at each of those items. So before we go any further, before we jump into this, what I've heard is that Amazon wants the players to have more than one way to get the same resource, which is a very nice thing to do because you might find one way very boring, which means you've got a completely different way that you can get that same resource that you really require. I like the idea of this, but what all these things suggest to me that I've read before this, that I've heard from other creators, is that crafting is going to be integral to this game. So you're either going to want to make best friends with someone who's really into the crafting, or you're going to have to, at least to some degree, level up your crafting levels. And that feels good. That feels really good. I can't remember the last time that crafting and professions actually felt valuable in a game, that it wasn't just some add-on that was tacked on the end that didn't really matter and didn't really make a difference. The fact that the crafting in this game is integral to how you play, is integral to how good things are, whether that means you're trading with someone completely different for the items you need, or you're leveling it up yourself because you're like, damn, I really need to get this sword to a place where it's good enough to start chopping down those damn trees again. That feels good. That feels really, really good. And not only does it fit the logic of the world that we're going into, this very 1700s colonizing an island, trying to tame the nature around us, but it makes you feel involved in the game. It fits in from a lore perspective, it fits in from a practicality perspective, and I think it's just an all-around amazing thing to see that all the crafting systems are integral to how you play the game. It also fits very nicely into the fact that we're going to have a player-driven economy. Because the economy is based so heavily on the players, we know that we're going to need to be able to generate our own resources, to generate our own final products, to maybe sell off raw materials to someone and then get them to craft stuff for us. All of this ties together very neatly, and it makes me think that not just from a crafting perspective is everything going to be very neat and tidy, but we're actually going to have a real functioning player-driven economy. These are the small glimpses that give us a good idea of where Amazon is going. Now, enough of my rambling. Let's actually get into the actual meat and potatoes of what's going on here. So the first thing we're looking at is the consumables, the food and drinks. Food and drink items play an important role in your ability to take on the dangers of Eternum. Eating and drinking provides slow health regeneration over an extended period of time. If you want to make the most of your short burst of health recovery, we advise you to wait until you are in a safe place before consuming food and drinks. Furthermore, while raw foods and fresh water can be used in a pinch, the way to ensure you're getting the most out of the food in your possession is to cook it at a camp or at a kitchen in a settlement. Amazing. Brilliant. food buffs that actually matter. Food buffs that might mean the difference between you winning a very close fight and you losing a very close fight. It also gives you an incentive not just to eat food raw, but to actually cook it. To actually maybe worry about how good is this buff when it's raw versus when it's cooked. Is it worthwhile for me to cook this? Maybe in a tight pinch, you'll be able to eat some raw food and, well, it'll give you the edge you need. But it'll always be better to come prepared to a fight, to come ready for a battle. I love this kind of idea that we're kind of like Batman. Batman is overpowered in any situation where he's got at least a little bit of time to prepare, because in all those situations he always has the advantage. We can do the same in this game. Every single thing we do matters. This feels good. This changes your experience. And you know what? For min-maxers, this is brilliant. For the people who want to go out their way to get every little buff, find everything that makes them the most optimal, and then get stomped by someone who's just way better than them at the game, well, there you go. You've got your buffs. Okay, so what we're seeing here seems to be a bit of a cooking station. We've got some fish hanging up. We've got some materials hanging up. Now, what I'm interested to know is, if this is our general cooking station, if this is where we go to cook food, can we cook food out in the wilderness? Or is this the only place where we get to prepare it? What's nice to see about this is that the cooking station isn't just a pot with a little bit of fire there. They're trying to immerse you in the fantasy of the lore of this game. They're trying to make you involved. It might be that all this stuff that's sitting here doesn't do anything, and it's just for you to see and to look at and feel immersed in the game. That's just lovely to see that they've actually put effort and thought into not just the practical side of things, but the actual aesthetic that goes alongside it. This just fills me with hope. This is what I've been looking for. This is what gets me really excited. It's not just that we've got good, solid combat, but we've got things to support us through this world. That there's a wide open expanse, a gigantic map of things that assist us with doing damage, doing better for each other, and doing better even if we're going solo out into the world. But enough gushing, onward we go. There is a wide variety of cooked food and brewed drinks. When consumed, prepared food and drinks will not only initially heal you, but also provide a longer state of slower health recovery. This recovery is constant, whether you are in or out of combat. Prepared food provides additional points of constitution, the attribute that governs your base health. Additionally, many prepared food and drink items also offer buffs that can increase your defense against certain enemies, enhance your stamina recovery, or even temporarily hone a crafting skill. No matter what you are doing, it is important to have the right food for the task at hand. Amazing. Incredible. So not only does the food actually affect your combat, but it affects your crafting. It affects other skills within the world. You might then want to really consider focusing on cooking in this game because it'll help you do everything else easier. What seems to be nice, or what seems to be happening with the system right now, is that it appears to be a positive reinforcement system, which means that there is no negative for not having food. It's just that making food and eating food will just make your life easier as you go along. So someone might decide, hey, I don't want to do this. I don't want to waste my time cooking. I feel like I play this game to the point that I don't need the cooking, and good for them, then they can do it. Someone else might decide, you know what, I want that little bit of an extra boost. It might be good for me to go out, get some food, cook it up, and it'll make me craft this weapon a lot easier. It might make me fight a lot easier. Hell, maybe it'll help us kill that big damn Spriggan so much easier. So here we're taking a look at the different types of food that can be made. What this also suggests to me on a wider level is it might be that we'll be able to get fishing in this game. Maybe at a later stage, maybe down the road, but it only seems logical to me that if we're cooking up fish, maybe we can fish them out of the ocean, any of the rivers we see, and any of the ponds that are, well, based around Eternum. So looking a bit closer at this, we can see that there's actually a weight next to each food here. We can see that the herb roasted squash is 1.8 units of weight. The wild berry compote is 2.1, steak and eggs 1.8, and the fish 2.4. This means that these are real world objects. These are not just magical consumables that we can stuff in a bag and it's all about bag space. This means that carrying around food does actually have a minor downside. That might limit our carry weight. We might have to decide between using up a very useful buff now and eating a bunch of food so that we can stay under a certain weight class, or not overfilling our bags so that we've always got buffs. We're going to be limited to how much we can actually take out there. This tells us that there's only so many things we can do, that this is a practical kind of game, that you actually have to think about, what are you taking with you out there to the world? What are you cooking up? Is it worthwhile to actually have that fish with you when you could be carrying around maybe a sword, and 1 unit of weight actually makes a huge difference for you? So reading the item descriptions next on these, there's 2 things that stick out to me in particular. The first is that on the herb roasted squash, you can see it says provides a small increase to base gear score of items crafted by engineers. And on the wild berry compote, we see provides a moderate increase to base gear score of items crafted by arcanists. But what this tells me is that there might actually be an entire economy purely based around the idea of cooking. Someone might focus on nothing else but cooking and then sell off those prepared meals. Next, if we take a look at the tier 4 and tier 5 steak and eggs and fish here, we can see that it provides a strong ward against damage from beast type enemies. And we can see that the fish provides a powerful ward against lost type enemies. So this tells us that enemies have classes themselves. They have classifications. We've got beast types and we've got lost types. That means there's probably a wide range and a wide variety of enemies out there, each that have a specific type of damage that we can mitigate through the use of food. I'm gushing, but I absolutely love how in-depth they're going here. I love seeing these kind of mechanics because there's just so much you can put into it. There's so many factors to consider. There is nothing better for a player than an imperfect game because they cannot get bored with an imperfect game. Now, that's not to say that a perfect game is boring or dull. It's just that this type of system gives us that much more to look forward to. I think as long as they don't throw all of this at the player at once, and this is a slow progression system forward, this is going to be incredible, because once you're into this game, I don't think people are going to want to leave. Next, we're moving on to potions and tinctures. Potions and tinctures are both small vials of a drinkable substance that grants specific bonuses. For instance, potions provide a general magical effect that lasts for several minutes. You might drink a potion to increase the carry weight of your inventory or enhance your defense against a particular elemental damage type, such as lightning. Conversely, tinctures take effect instantly and in the majority of cases do not linger in their effect. Health and mana tinctures are common examples of this. If you want to quickly recover mana or health while in combat, they are the way to go. Tinctures are also used to rid yourself of dangerous poisons or stop yourself from bleeding. Wow, okay, so that's a lot of information that's very densely packed. So we know that there's bleeding in the game. We know there's poison in the game. This is nothing new, but there's just a lot of confirmations here. We know that these kinds of consumables, I'm going to just call them potions as a catch-all, but even though they're split into potions and tinctures, I'm trying to think of a better name. Vials, I'll call them vials. Okay, so everything in a vial is split into potions and tinctures here. Potions seem to be long-term effects that last a while, and tinctures seem to be instant recovery. They've clearly thought about this a lot. We've got a lot to deal with. We've got a lot to handle here. But at the same time, it seems that they've simplified the system down as much as possible. So it seems like you're going to be learning about these things as the game goes on. What's nice is the item descriptions seem to be very clear, very succinct so far, and everything kind of makes sense. So having a look at what I'm going to just call the vials. Let's see if that catches on. Probably not. So just like with the food here, we've got a small description: restores health, removes a burning effect. We're probably going to have a remove of a bleed or a poison as well. Everything here has a weight. We've got a nice symbol right next to each of these pictures here, which tells us exactly what it does. So each status effect has a symbol. Each status effect is probably going to be showing up somewhere on the UI as well, so that we know exactly what potion or tincture we need to deal with this. But this tells us as well that we have different damage types in the game that go alongside all the enemy types, all the food types, all the profession types. This is such a deep system. This is what I've been waiting to see from an MMO for a very long time, and it's really caught my attention. Right, next we're on to weapon coatings. Oh. They weren't kidding when they meant that this game was going to be like Dark Souls, did they? Amazing. So, weapon coatings. Weapon coatings are the key to gaining an advantage in combat against the various creatures of Eternum. They can be crafted at any camp once you reach the required level. Okay, so that confirms to me that it's about your character's level and not about a profession level. I'm curious to know what their reasoning was for making that all linked to character level as opposed to a crafting level. It might have been that the crafting levels were just far too tedious and limiting, especially with so much depth elsewhere. Or just thinking about it, it might have just been superfluous and very limiting for players who have a limited amount of time to play within the day. It's never good to lock your players out of content, but at the same time, you do still want them to work for it and have a sense of accomplishment from achieving something. And I guess they've tied that to the resource gathering as opposed to leveling up a crafting skill in the background. You may also find them as loot on your adventures. Weapon coatings apply to a weapon and grant it a categorical damage bonus against a particular family of creatures. For instance, applying a corruption coating to your weapon will enhance your damage against corrupted enemies. Okay, so that's a nice, straightforward way of doing things. Corrupted coating against corrupted enemies. Angry earth coating against angry earth enemies. That's a nice, simple, straightforward thing. We're not playing rock, paper, scissors. Everything links up in a straight line. So taking a look here at the different types of coatings, obviously they've got their own symbols, and I'm guessing that those symbols would be tied to the factions that they're linked to. We've got a wraith coating, a corrupted coating, beast coating, and an angry earth coating. As we can see here, we've got things that are limited to levels, and it seems that the level is kind of linked to the prefix in the name here, where we've got distilled, concentrated, strong, and powerful. That allows us to categorize everything a little bit better without making things too complicated. So reading these, there seems to be a few common themes among these. All coatings appear here at least to last for 5 minutes. I wonder if there's a way to boost the length of those coatings. All coatings here appear to stack with your weapon traits. So you might want to min-max your way into a very particular type of weapon that's very good at dealing with a particular type of enemy.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. I can tell you I don't have money, but what I do have are a very particular set
of weapon coatings meant to deal with your type. I'll wreck you, scrub 1v1 me.
Alrighty, now moving on to the equipment, weapons and armor. While exploring the fighting creatures, you can find and acquire equipment items that can be immediately used, provided that you are a certain level to be able to equip them. Each equipment item has a few features in common that determine how powerful the item is. The first feature is the item's gear score. Now, something to be said about that first paragraph there is that they say that provided you are the correct level, you can use this item. Now, that might mean one of two things. That might mean that if you're a low level and you are skilled enough, you could go out and defeat a high-leveled enemy and get a good drop from them, but not be able to use it until you reach the appropriate level. Or it could mean that the enemies you face that are appropriate for your level are going to drop gear that's slightly better than what you currently have, and you might need to level up once or twice before you can use it. Second thing to note there is that they've made things nice and easy. They've given us a number to look at, the gear score. We can then understand which thing would be better for us to use in certain situations. Obviously, that comes within the context of what you've chosen to specialize down and what you plan to use while you play through the game. So items with higher gear scores are more powerful. The higher the gear score is, the more damage the weapon will deal and the more protective the armor will be. The second is the item's perks. An item can drop with up to 3 perks on it. The perks an item can drop with are pulled from a pool of potential perks. The same kind of item can function differently depending on which perks drop with it. Generally, items with higher gear scores have the potential to drop with more perks and or more powerful versions of those perks. Items with more perks are rarer than items without. So our rarity definition is based on the number of perks it has. Ooh, so now we have a system that's graded within another system. We have the quality of a weapon and what its gear score is and what type of weapon it is. So as it's listed here below, no perks is a common weapon, 1 perk is an uncommon weapon, 2 perks are rare, and 3 perks are epic. Then right here, they've been nice enough to give us a lovely visual representation of what we're looking at with a straight sword. So we've got iron, steel, star metal, and orichalcum. Now what that means to me is we know that there are resources in the world. We might be able to farm those resources and then craft a weapon that is going to definitely have 3 perks as long as we make sure we make it out of orichalcum. This all then hints right back in to the crafting system, to every other element of the game. Everything is neatly tied together, and it makes sense not just from a perspective of how the mechanics of the game work, but the actual lore behind the mechanics of the game. Now, what's notable here is that it seems to tell us what types of damage these weapons do. So the short sword, for instance here, does slash and thrust damage, until we get to the star metal short sword here, which has a perk which gives it fire damage on top of the normal damage that goes along with it. Not only that, but it seems like if you get something that's rare or epic, you get a gem slot. So it looks like these gems here are able to boost up your character even more. Now, I don't know if these are removable or whether they're set in place, but I like the idea of being able to have a little bit of customization behind what you're going to do with your own weapon. And on top of that, this is going to lead to some serious debates. If you get a really, really good weapon that doesn't fit your playstyle, would it be worthwhile to switch? Or to keep with your old playstyle and wait until you get the weapon you're looking for, and maybe, hell, sell off this one for the resources you need. Now, I'm sure that based on the star metal and the orichalcum swords and the traits that swords here and the perks we see underneath them, that number there is related to the weapon's durability, which means that we're either going to need to repair our weapons, or we only get limited use with our weapons until they break. Now, personally, I don't think Amazon is mean enough to give us a really, really, really good weapon and then no way to repair it at all. But I am curious to see how it works if that durability number hits 0. Is the weapon completely destroyed and we can't get it back? Or is there a way to repair it and it's purely more expensive? But again, I'm rambling. This is just so exciting for me. Let's carry on. So the third feature to look for is the item's gem slot. There we go, just like we discussed. Occasionally items can drop with an empty gem slot. Anyone can socket a gem into an item, but the gemstone must first be cut by a skilled jewel crafter. So there we go, we've got another profession under our belts, jewel crafters. Socketed gemstones cannot be removed, but in the majority of cases they can be replaced. Gemstones enhance one or more of the character's core attributes. Weapons, armor, and other equipment items can have different perks. Weapon perks can improve a weapon's stats and even add additional elemental damage to them, while armor perks can increase defense against different kinds of damage or add extra pockets to allow you to carry more weight in your inventory. So it seems that everything in this game doesn't just directly affect combat. There are superfluous effects to things. There are combat adjacent effects. There seem to be just general world effects that take place here, where it's all down to what the perk is that you get. And that's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to see that everything in this world doesn't just affect combat, that this is just not a one note game, or at least that's what I'm seeing based on what they're giving us here, that there's a lot more to do with this game than just pick a fight with one random player. And that's very nice to see, especially since they changed it from a pure PvP experience. Armor weight and equip load. Each piece of armor that you wear contributes to your overall equip load, which in turn affects your mobility when evading. There are 3 states of equip load: light, normal, and heavy. In parallel, there are 3 weight categories of armor: light, medium, and heavy. Wearing all light armor will keep you in the fast movement state. Wearing all medium armor will place you squarely in the normal movement state, and wearing all heavy armor moves you into the heavy movement state. Now, this is obviously nearly straight from every other game that's used equipment loads, that your movement is different based on how much you're carrying. If you're fast, I'm guessing, just like we've seen in some of the gameplay trailers, that you'll be rolling around, you'll be diving about, and maybe if you're carrying heavier equipment loads, you won't be able to dodge at all, and maybe at medium you'll be able to just shimmy out the way slightly, but not do a full dive roll. Lighter armor trends towards more evasive playstyles and protection against elemental damage types, while heavier armor trends towards more stalwart playstyles and protection against physical damage types. There's a wide variety of variants in a particular weight category. You can mix and match different armors to get the most effective protection for the movement state you want to stay in. The total weight of the armor is what matters, not the individual pieces. There are even item perks that affect an armor's weight. So that's nice. That's keeping it very simple, is tie everything to your character's weight as opposed to tie it to a certain gear in a certain classification. That means maybe you want to put on some heavy armor gloves, but the rest of you is light enough to move around. You drink a potion, and guess what? You're still a light movement character, and you can still evade, but now you've got that little bit of extra physical protection. This also gives us a nice kind of dynamism to the fighting as well in New World. You've got warriors and heavy armor users who are likely going to lean way more towards physical attacks, and you've got mage users who are going to be leaning towards magical attacks. Now, light armors are going to probably be very good for dealing with mages, but heavy armors are going to be very good at dealing with physical attackers, probably warriors with that big fucking scary hammer.
お前はもう死んでいる。何?
Oh, and there it is. There it is. I'm not even going to read that paragraph. I'm going to look at this first. Amazon just pulled a fast one on us. There's not 4 weapon categories. There's 5. There's legendary weapons in the game. Now, I'm assuming that means that a legendary weapon will always have 3 perks, and obviously, as it's shown here, an empty gem socket. I'm hoping that these are actually very difficult to attain. I'm hoping that these things are very, very special weapons that give players a higher status above everyone else. Because then you know that person has put in the time, the work, the energy, and they got what they deserved out of their playtime. Now, I think the most interesting thing about this weapon in particular is not the traits. It's not the gear score, it's not the damage. It's this little piece down here that says blocking absorption. That says blocking absorption 100%. Now what that might mean is that if you've got this hammer, you will be able to absorb 100% of damage when someone attacks you. Alright, now that I've sated my greed, let's take a look at the paragraph just below it. Named and legendary items. During your adventures in Eternum, you will find a variety of named and legendary items. Unlike regular items, named and legendary items have curated perks and fixed gear scores. Some of them even come with pre-socketed gems. While the most reliable way to acquire named or legendary items is by engaging with the most dangerous and challenging foes of Eternum has to offer, there are legendary level items to be found for players of any level. Okay, so that kind of disproves what I thought legendaries would end up being. It seems that legendaries are spread throughout the game. It seems more Path of Exile than World of Warcraft style, which is, I mean, I love Path of Exile as well, so maybe it's a good system. The fact that you get legendaries while you're leveling up also gives you something to aim for. It might be that you end up at level 35 and you know that this weapon would be the best for you, and so you're trying to get a specific legendary or a specific named item. Now, obviously these things are going to take precedence at level 50, but I'm hoping that the amount of effort required to get these at level 50 is supremely difficult, that they would actually have to fight something very challenging in order to stand a chance at having one of these weapons. So on to trinkets and bags. Trinkets provide passive bonuses to characters' core attributes. Trinkets can grant additional attribute points to one or more attribute. All trinkets come with a pre-socketed gem that cannot be replaced. Like weapons and armor, trinkets have their own subset of perks that offer benefits unique to trinkets. Bags increase the amount of weight you can carry in your inventory and have their own set of perks as well. So now we're mixing in bag space along with weight. So, if you have a bigger bag, well then guess what? You can carry around a lot more weight. Then on top of that, we're seeing here that, again, kind of like Dark Souls, we've got jewelry. Now, Dark Souls limited it to rings, but it seems that we've also got earrings here, amulets, and rings, where each one can give you some kind of boosted effect. Now, again, just like everything else, it seems that these items don't just affect combat, they affect everything else here. We've got a gold ring of crafter's fortune, which increases chance to craft higher quality items. So this might be very specifically used for people who want to specialize in crafting. We've got an amulet here that has, again, this durable bonus. Now, that to me means that these things are going to suffer durability damage as we play through the game. So nothing really stands out here. These are just more items, more gear to get a hold of, except for the infused leather porter's duffel bag. So the porter's duffel, made from infused leather, greatly improves encumbrance at a cost to mobility. So it seems like if you want a bigger bag to run around with, it's going to make you slower. You might be able to carry more stuff, but hey, now your mobility is going to be reduced. That seems like a fair trade-off, and that seems understandable. Hopefully at least the bag system is then very easily swappable. So you can go with a lighter bag, especially if you're going into a more dangerous area with faster enemies, so that you can make sure to dodge everything. And this might mean that people who are already in heavy armor, who are carrying around a lot of stuff and have low mobility, are going to also end up being your group's beasts of burden while you walk out in the world. And now finally hitting the bottom of this long-ass information dump that's given us so much information in such a dense little package. We've got the crafting resources. In Eternum, you will often find a mixture of raw and refined resources while exploring. While the bulk of these resources can also be found naturally occurring in the world, such as wood from trees or ore from veins, some of them can only be obtained in various supply caches and coffers found throughout the dilapidated settlements and crumbling ruins that are rife with danger around every turn. The containers you search through may also yield rare and powerful crafting resources, which we'll go over in an upcoming article dedicated to crafting. To be a successful adventurer, you will need to make wise choices and master all of the resources available throughout Eternum. Be sure to familiarize yourself with items that come into your possession during your exploration, and be prepared to modify your inventory based on the way you want to play New World. And so that seems to be the end of the article. That was a lot of information, very densely packed. That was really, really good to see from my side at least, and what I thought, because This is a very in-depth system. This shows me that Amazon is taking this seriously and they don't plan for this MMO to be a first test failure before they try out their Lord of the Rings MMO. It seems they're putting in a lot of effort into this and they want this to be a full-on success. Now, in the future, I'm going to be coming out with a video of why I think New World is actually very important, specifically for the MMO genre, and hopefully it doesn't take me an entire month to get to that point. And then the game's released and what I said was point. Anyway, that's been a little bit of a read through of the items in New World, how they integrate into the world, the lore surrounding them, and why everything fits together so nicely and neatly, where all those threads tie together. I'm excited. I'm really excited. And seeing this has just reinvigorated all my hope for this game. So, I hope you get some value out of this. I hope this helps you at least decide whether this game's going to be for you or not. I hope you have a great day. I hope everything goes your way. Subscribe if you like this kind of content and give it a like. If you don't like it, well, then you know where the dislike button is. But it's time now for you and I to bugger off. I'll see you in the next one.